You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Andrea Spearman, and this is The Black Landscape, where we engage with emerging and established Black leaders here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to leave a 5-star review of the show on Apple Podcasts. I am a light-skinned Black woman with my dark brown curly hair up in a loose bun today. I'm wearing my pink Nike shirt that reads in white letters, "I'm not just eye candy, I train to win." And with that, let's welcome a woman who is winning in the community of Palo Alto, Nadine Rambeau.
Hello, Andrea. Good to see you.
Yes, please describe yourself to the people.
So my name is Nadine Rambeau. I am a African-American woman with dark skin, wearing my hair loosely in an Afro style, and I am wearing a blue shirt.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us today. Welcome,
Thank you
Nadine.
for having me.
Yes.
Good to be here.
And Nadine is the current Executive Director of EPACENTER, a creative youth development organization in East Palo Alto. But before we dive into that, we're going to go back to the beginning, because you're from Chicago, right?
Well, yes and no in some ways. I was
Talk
a
about it.
military brat, so I moved around a lot, but I did get my career started in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, tell us, in the Windy City, how did you get into arts education?
Well, it was really quite by accident. I was getting started, really. My first job was actually in advertising. I was working in a very big advertising agency at the time in downtown Chicago, Chi-Town, in the Loop. Really loved working in that field. But in the building where I was located was an organization that was selling the artwork made by students from across Chicago that were in a job training program in the arts. And I was really impressed by the work that they were making. They were making furniture and paintings and jewelry. Oh, it was amazing. And I was a frequent shopper. Okay, I just couldn't stop buying their stuff. And when I started finding out the story of how they were making it, just kept drawing me in, because basically it was students from across Chicago, but mostly in areas where there had not been as much economic investment. And so they were getting paid to make art, and they were learning from some of the best artists in the city.
Yes.
And then all of that artwork was being sold downtown by people like me who were buying it. And so that just hooked me. And so I made a career change because of it. I ended up working for the city of Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs, who basically that's who was running that program. And that's how my whole career just took off from there.
I love that. The kids were designing and creating furniture.
Furniture. I still have some of it now, 20 some years later.
Wow.
It was just beautiful work that they were making. They were making benches that were placed, like ceramic benches, placed all across the city. Some of it at the airport, because it was so well made.
Okay, Chicago.
Yeah, they had it going on. Really kind of displaying the talent of youth of color at that time across the city, and it just has always inspired me.
Wow. See, I'm going to have to ask my cousins if they were part of this program, because I got some people in Chicago.
Okay.
I'm going to have to ask them, like, were y'all in this program? Because that sounds amazing.
Yes.
And was sponsored by the city?
Yes, it was. So they were getting paid. There were employees of the city getting paid to make that artwork. That type of program is rare, even today. But to me, it's always served as an inspiration for what can be done when you work with youth to really invest in their talents and take it seriously.
Absolutely. So when you made that switch, what did you need to go back to school to get some further degree, or just was kind of skills translating?
It was, I was fortunate at the time because, I came in a junior level position and was able to just learn from some professionals there who were willing to kind of take me in and say, okay, sit down and learn the ropes. And I did, I took the punches, as I was trying to get up to speed as to what they needed, coming in, learning about, youth development, learning about the arts in particular,
Hmm.
learning about, working with artists, learning about economic development. That was all the stuff that I was learning about at the time. I mean, luckily for me, my undergraduate degree was in political science. So I could kind of say, I was like, okay, I'm working in, government. So, that
Right.
related to my degree a little bit. So I could kind of fake that. But everything else was new. And they were generous, with their time in that way and being able to just take someone in off the street. I literally wrote to the executive director and said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I would like to see if I could get a job with you because I just love what you're doing." And she said, "Come on in here and talk to me." And would you know, she hired me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I lo- and that is the power of the arts.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. It's people believing in you have a passion and that's what you follow.
Yes.
It's based on the passion. And she saw the passion in me and she said, well, okay, that's enough,
Mm.
to go off of that, and so that's now propelled me now, through almost going on 3 decades of a career.
And it's so funny that you say that because looking at you, you would never know. 3 decades where looking like a young teen.
That's right. Hopefully
Come
keep that up. You know what I'm saying?
on, Melody. Yes. So this wonderful work that you're doing with the kids, how did you get over to the YMCA? That's a continuation of arts
Hmm.
work.
Yes, yes. So then after that, the city of Chicago position, I got word of the fact that the YMCA was building the first art center in their portfolio that was going to
Mm.
be dedicated to the arts and youth. And then I heard about that and I said, I should also try to work on something like this really dedicated in a community. So I went to kind of, do some work with them as they were launching their first center that
Oh
was going
wow.
to be dedicated to the arts on the south side of Chicago in the near loop.
South side.
Um, yep. So that was really educational too because it was in a community that really needed access to opportunity, and that also kind of started to expose me to the what happens in black and brown communities when there's real disinvestment, like just
Hmm.
seeing it up close, like where there'd be nothing, but
Hmm.
the apartments and then for miles of what you can see, no businesses there that are really kind of generating,
Hmm.
serious economic opportunities for people, no places for people to go, no investment in the restaurants and so forth. And that just really struck me, like how you'd have these major pockets of disinvestment. And then you'd have, major areas of investment in Chicago. The variation
Hmm.
between that, and especially what was interesting in Chicago is you could ride on the train through all of these different and get a tour of the disinvestment areas of
Oh
disinvestment
wow.
neighborhood, and there'd be a place of investment, and then you travel through the next neighborhood, and there'd be
Hmm.
a place of disinvestment, and it was like a tour,
Mm.
really, on the train, every day going to work, and you'd be just like, how is it that it's designed this way that that the designers of cities really kind of must make a conscientious choice that on this street right here this investment is going to begin.
Well, it starts with putting trains in these locations where black and brown folks was trying to live. It's putting overly priced buildings and residential housing and moving folks out that can't afford to live there anymore. That's like it's all in a plan.
Yeah, it's all in the plan. And I think that's when the first time I really saw it. I remember traveling, by Cabrini Green, which was an area in Chicago at the time. This was a long time ago, where, you had apartments
Mm,
that there was, just concentrated poverty. And the way that
mm,
the apartment buildings looked, where they were tall apartment buildings, very tall, but they're on the outside, they were all they were just like fences. So you
Mm.
imagine you look at a building, and normally you look at an apartment building and there's a wall there. But instead of there being a wall on the apartment buildings at Cabrini Green, there'd actually be fences. So basically people would come outside but be in a cage.
Mm.
And imagine it's cold in Chicago. So
Mm.
instead of there
Ooh,
being a
so cold.
wall, the cold would be there on your front door in an apartment building, and you'd be in a cage, and you'd come outside and be in a cage, and everyone could see you being in a cold cage. You
Ooh.
know, that's how Cabrini Green looked. And I remember thinking at the time, like, somebody built that. Somebody actually conceived of a cold cage,
Mm-hmm.
for brown bodies to be in. And I think that's when I started like being really conscientious about the power of creativity, and that whoever the people that make creative decisions about black and brown bodies, um, they need to have an awareness about what they're creating for us, and that we need to actually be involved in creating things for us that are healthy for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody who cares about black and brown bodies will build something that looked like that, that
Mm-mm.
actually kind of put our bodies in a cold cage
A
like
prison.
that.
A
A
prison.
prison.
Call it
A
what it is.
prison.
A
Call
prison.
it what it was. A cold prison. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that it just struck me that I just kept getting so um, perturbed by that image. And it really kind of got me thinking about this issue around who creates for us.
Mm-hmm.
um and what do we create for ourselves, and how do we develop the capacity to create for ourselves, and how do we have access to the resources to create for ourselves.
Yes.
um and when we are denied access to those resources to create for ourselves, you will end up with a building that looks like a cold prison, and you're supposed to call that home.
Mm. Sure hate it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what struck me.
Yeah, because there are so many black and brown architects who are just not being given the opportunity. They submit their proposal and they're just like, nope, swipe left.
There's not enough of us. I mean, it's less than. I mean, even today, 2024, there's less than 1% of the architectural, population of architects are African American. Less than 1%
Mm.
today. You know,
Wow.
that's how you can. That's how that continues to play out. And I'm like, wow, yeah, it's amazing to think about all of our strides, and still that's where we are. Less than 1%.
But see, that's why we got people like you investing in the youth.
Trying to, in a serious
Yes,
level, trying to.
exactly. Because these same children who, folks like to count us out in the arts, like, oh, y'all just entertain it. But I'm like, y'all take in entertainment every single day. You're taking in art every single day. Architecture is art. It starts from kids drawing, painting,
Mm-hmm.
creating things,
Mm-hmm.
and taking it to the next level of
Yep.
seeing things in their own city and being like, "Oh, I'm inspired by this arc or this tall tree or this, the way that this is laid out. This is my favorite place to go hang out and just be free."
Right.
It starts there.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. And we have to have the ability and the space to imagine what our realities can look like, and then the ability to create those realities, and not just entertain.
Yes.
You know,
What
that's what
have
I'm thinking
been?
about.
Yes, yes. What have been some of the most notable differences between Chicago and the Bay Area for you? Because now we in the Bay. We're bringing you to the back. We brought you to the Bay Area. Did you first come? Did you first come to Palo Alto, or were you in another city before you started there?
Well, I've been in California now for 24 years.
Mm,
So and lived both in the Bay Area now for jump back and forth between the Bay Area and Los Angeles.
mm-hmm.
And the Bay Area and Los Angeles are very different,
Absolutely.
very, very,
Very.
very much, Um, so, but I would say that the biggest difference, um, well, one thing is that I'm amazed by the fact that the similarity is the loss of the African American populations, and the way that it is hit. San Francisco, Oakland, um, you know, East Palo Alto, in particular, how it has played out. I know Chicago is going through its own, challenges, but I know they're doing a lot of work to try to retain, on the South Side, and so forth. But the challenges of major cities to retain African American populations is really a similarity that I don't like to see. Essentially, I think there's some data that's come out recently that said that because of the lack of economic opportunity in cities, that now the population of African Americans in major cities like Chicago, like the Bay, like New York is now going backwards as people retreat to the South.
Yeah.
I never thought in my lifetime that I would see Black people going back to the South from cities, because where cities were supposed to be progressive with their politics, but ended up being regressive in their economic strategies, so much so that people decided they would go back to the place where
of trauma and oppression.
People are sitting here, trying to.
They like, well, at least I can own my own house and be in a house away from them, away from them people.
At least I can have more economic. I can at least own my own house. At least own my own house. At least. And I'm like, I can't believe that that's where we are as a people, sitting here saying, at least I can get my own house. At least that. That's a horrible situation to be in. That we're talking about the least we can get.
Right. I don't want the least. I want the most.
I want the most.
I want it all.
And so I think that we have to look at the cities where, that promised progressive policies, progressive economic strategies, and hold them accountable for their failure.
Yes.
That's what I'm really interested in, is like, how'd we get here where you didn't deliver?
Now, that's one thing I'll say about the Bay. We will protest down. Like, excuse me, what's happening? We will be in these city hall meetings going in, and we'll pull up. But sometimes, and these are my own people. I grew up here. I'm like, we come into the conversations too late, y'all. We can't protest after the fact. We have to be continuously in these meetings while they're happening and voting for every election, not just every 4 years.
No.
Because that's really not what matters in the long run. What matters is what's happening here in your city where you live every day.
Yes, every day. It's just amazing. I just can't. I did not think in 2024, after all that we've been through, that you would see the loss of people just being like, I need to leave. This didn't work. I'm going to go back to the South, which isn't. Here in the state of California, what would they say? The statistics just came out where they said now that only African Americans only account for 6% of the population now in California.
Really?
Yes, it's true.
We're down to 6%. Wow.
6%. Now think about it. I think across the country we account for, I think it's 14%. But in California, we're now down to 6%. So how is it that the most populous state in the union only has a population, 6% of the population is African American? That's how much we've had to flee this particular state. That to me is a failure. Got to start talking about that more broadly too. That, we've been talking so much about many issues in this state, issues around homelessness, issues around, mental health, all of that very important. But the loss of African Americans in this state needs to be another one of those top issues that we start addressing in a big way. Because how is it that people are running to the South and left California?
I don't know. Listen, we're going to have to put you on the ballot to make these changes happen. Nominate Nadine. Hashtag nominate Nadine.
I'm like, it's because I may be in the arts, right? But
Mm-hmm.
my job is to really be thinking about, like, the arts are about creating the world that you want to be in and your imagination and everything like that, right?
Yes.
And so I'm looking around for the inspiration, and I'm like, what's this reality here? I got to look at it, and I got to be drawing from it, and I got to tell the story about it. And the story that I have to tell is actually, hey, it's this loss here. This isn't what we expected to see. This isn't what I think we had all thought we were imagining together as a collectively healthy future. If you're losing your African Americans as a state, so yeah, it's something that draws me. That it inspires me as the executive director of the organization to think about what can we be doing. It means that we have to be doing more.
Yes.
And it drives the strategy of what we need to be doing as an organization programmatically.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive deep into the work of Epicenter after we take this short break. To catch up on previous episodes of The Black Landscape, download on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Spotify, everywhere that podcasts be streaming. Be sure to leave a review, 5 stars if you love us. When we come back, we will hear more from Nadine Rambeau.
Am I getting too much into it? I'm sorry.
No, this is perfect. This is what I like. I'm like, give me depth, give me your full opinion, give me what's happening in the world. Let's keep it 100. Yeah, no, because listen, as a Bay Area native, been here my whole 38 years of life, it has changed, especially in like growing up in Oakland specifically, because I be over in San Francisco, but I'm not really. I'm like, I couldn't tell you where nothing is. Like they be like, where is this? I'm like, if it's not downtown and like a couple sprinkles, out by the water, I'm like, I
don't know.
They be like, oh, over on Knob Hill. I'm like, okay.
I don't know.
God bless you. But I can talk to you about Rock Ridge, about downtown, East Oakland, West Oakland, that middle Oakland called Emeryville. Like,
She said middle Oakland called Emeryville.
Right. Yeah, that's and Oakland has definitely changed since I was a young, I don't want to say a young person. I still feel young, but when I was a youth. A child, a youth. There definitely used to be more emphasis on blackness, and it felt more black. I felt like I saw more black people.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I be like,
that's why. This is why.
Where y'all go?
Where y'all go?
And the Ponderosa didn't help. And yeah, no, because like I remember growing up, my dad, he was obsessed with festivals. He used to take my younger sister and I to all the festivals that would happen. And it was like Art and Soul that would happen every summer. There was like Black History Month Festival, the African Arts Festival, Gilroy Garlic Festival, Berkeley City Festival.
See, wow.
Like the book festival and literary arts festival, Dance for Your Life festival, just all types of get together, Black Eyed Pea festival at the lake, all type of obsessed with festivals. So everywhere I'm seeing all this beautiful like blackness, people, economic wise, folks selling their wares all the time, folks performing, dancing and singing, and people doing crafts and all types of social services being activated and advertised. And now I'm like, what happened to all them people? Went out of business because folks didn't support them? or they were driven out by rising prices for
Right.
rent if they had a brick and mortar. So
Mm-hmm.
many, and just even in the last 10 years, so many businesses have opened and closed, grand opening, grand closing. I was like,
Oh, she
I
said
was
grand
like, oh
opening, grand
no.
closing.
Yeah. I was kind of glad when folks moved to online presence,
Yeah.
uh, and kind of moving out of brick and mortar, and more people started doing pop-ups. And I said, well, do what you got to do. Just let us know the schedule when you're going to be outside,
When you gonna do your thing. Yep.
because
Yep.
it's very hard to hold on to a brick and mortar in Oakland with rising costs. And I'm really proud of, like, there's a bunch of young people. I'm calling them young people because they're in their 20s. Bless them. And, or like, about to be 30 or like early 30s, and they're really putting in the work to like have these brick and mortar buildings and to have more spaces and places for people to be, and to cultivate as a community, to be having film premieres and coffee meetups, and this is a space for moms to meet up with their babies. I'm like, oh, I love it. Co-working spaces. I say, come on, y'all, I love it. So I feel like there's been this cycle of young people doing these things, but I'm like, they're back at it. I said, good. I said, I'm gonna try to do my best to support y'all, which is why I do
Yeah.
this show and why on my Instagram I'm always like sharing people the stories. Like, y'all go check out the people. So it's the support is coming back. I feel like it's cycling back as
I
more
hope
folks are
so.
connecting. That's really the
Yeah.
hard part, is just connecting and knowing where everybody is. Like, it feels like everybody's doing the thing, but nobody's connecting about why they're doing the thing.
Right. Right. Or understanding what's at stake if you don't do the thing and come
Yeah.
support the thing.
Yeah. I'm like, y'all need to be in a collective. Y'all are doing the same. The five of y'all are doing the same thing. Y'all need to be
Yep.
come together collective, or at least have a monthly vent, collective work session, something. Because I'm like, y'all are
Yeah.
doing the same thing. Do it
It's
together.
interesting. It's interesting that you say that because the there was a someone just wrote an interesting book, and I cannot remember his name, but he was talking about the rise of the technocratic, the techno gods,
Mm-hmm.
and he was saying that the folks who are making money, now, um, are um, are basically these technology companies who are not really innovative. What they're actually doing is they're charging people rent. And I was like, this is interesting. What do you mean? And he was saying that really what they're doing is they're charging people to park their content on their platform.
Yep.
So he's like, so for example, Amazon. He's like, all these sellers and everything like that. He's like, Amazon's not innovative. He's like, really what they're doing is they're charging you rent. So
Booth
you
rent.
are, yeah,
Booth
booth rent.
rent.
It's booth rent. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. He was like, Facebook, it's booth rent. You're all trying to talk with your family, trying to do this, sell yourself, whatever. It's booth rent. He's like, same thing with Google and, the websites and everything. He's like, it's booth rent. And he's like, they're not innovative at all. They're not creating some product that we all need. It's just something where it's amalgamating people together to sell, and then you all are using that. And he said, so it's not innovative. There's no product there. And the reason why I think that's interesting compared to what you were just talking about is people are not coming together as much, and because they've gotten captured, their imaginations have gotten captured by these big places that are kind of like really big providers of these rentees. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so you're coming to these marketplaces with this huge marketplace, with all these sellers. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I love all the choices that I can all see. And then you're going there. And then if you come for something that's involving 5 artists or whatever, you're like, that's not as big of a marketplace as this thing over here that's provided by XYZ company.
Mm-hmm.
And so and so it's sexier. But you're killing the
Small
smaller
business owner.
marketplace, the
Mm-hmm.
small business, because you're really interested in this other, place where really all they're doing is just charging rent, for all
Mm-hmm.
these other innovators who are now over here, and they're killing that sense of community, the sense of that. It
Mm-hmm.
was a really really interesting kind of concept,
Yes.
I was like,
That's why I'm glad people started doing smaller
yeah.
marketplaces, because for me, even though I'm like, child, I don't need no more shea butter, lotion, got all the. I said, but I'm gonna go support my people.
Right.
I said, but the way that I'm gonna go support them is, people that's doing the shea butter and all that. Let me see your card so I can go on your Instagram and be like, check this person. This person was outside. I'm like, oh, here's it. I'm like, can I do a video of you? Oh, look at this Black business owner. Tell them what your business is about. That way I'm sharing what you're doing.
Right.
I'm contributing
Yes.
in a way to promote you, even though I don't need any more of the shea butter. But I have like 3, 4, 5, 6 jars. I'm very moisturized over here. But I want to support you as a Black business owner. So I'm telling the people about you.
Right. That's right.
Like,
exactly.
Y'all come on down here. Right. Come on down here or follow them on the Instagram right now. Ooh, they got a sale going on. Something.
And I think that's what I'm thinking about for Epicenter is as we, we've only had our building open for 2 years, but as we move into becoming a place where youth are actually producing events and so forth, it's also thinking about that marketplace that we can be supporting, that economy that we can be supporting for, people in the community and beyond to be selling those types of things. I said, we can't just be in the business of supporting the youth. It's like, what's the ecosystem that we can be supporting too? That's really of interest. How can it appeal where, yeah, you put money in the pockets of the people who are there selling their wares, very important.
Yeah. And since we're talking about Epicenter, for those of us who are not in the South Bay, what is this place and what's its purpose? Because now we're moving towards what you said, creating a marketplace. But what's the purpose of this place originally?
So Epicenter started because there were youth in the community who had been for many years really thinking about how they could see positive change happen in their city. They had been witnessing things, come about in the community that they just felt like were not in service to making it feel like it was a city that was conducive to their development. And, it's important really to understand in context where East Palo Alto, had been before, youth were involved in this project. So, East Palo Alto incorporated in 1983. But before that, it was an unincorporated area that had been redlined starting in the 1950s. African Americans forced to move into that area because they were not allowed to, buy, get mortgages or get houses in other parts of the peninsula. And then at the same time that, African Americans were forced into this area, there were a number of chemical plants that were co-located in the area with them. Some of them were leaching chemicals into the soil, processing those chemicals. There were, the dump was located. Their recycling plant was located there. They had, processing plants for automobile parts and all sorts of things. And that ended up, poisoning the soil and the water table.
Yep.
Water table. I just want to emphasize that. Some of those chemicals went down and poisoned the soil 80 feet. 80 feet down. That's not, that's not small.
No.
Hey, so the thing is of course, people in the community weren't really it's not like they were saying, yay, we like that. They were like, let's get this out. So they've been agitating for decades to try to get this out. And so the last one closed in 2008. 2008.
Wow.
It took people in the community that long to finally shut it down. That's I mean, it took a huge community effort, lots of powerful people working on that, including many in the community, many youth in the community, and including many youth who were working on this project who were like, okay, look, this has got to happen. And so there were so many organizations who I think, really deserve credit. Live in Peace, Youth United for Community Action, who were trying to get this to all happen. And so some of the youth, from those organizations and others, like the Music, Mural, and Arts program, were really trying to conceive of, now what? Last chemical plant closed down. There's some opportunities. What do you do? And so they started, conceptualizing. They'd already been organizing, and they started working with some researchers at Stanford to kind of say, okay, let's conceptualize what could we do. And they took it. They just ran, and they started talking to people in the communities, talking to community leaders, talking to people in city council, talking amongst themselves, and conceptualize of this opportunity to think of what do we want to build. Now they came up with many different ideas, but one of them was something that started to take shape, in part because some of the youth were really into art. And there was an angel funder who was like, we'd like to invest in what you're thinking of, John and Marsha Uckelman. And so they basically wanted to partner with them. And so that's what happened. And so eventually the youth selected the land that the building is on.
Oh.
Which included basically the land that the building is on, kind of like where one of those chemical plants were located. They worked with the architect on the building design. The soil that the building is on got remediated.
Yes.
And they literally like worked on the design, chose the colors, chose the programming, and boom.
That's what we want. Come on.
That's what you need, Yes. And so that's how it got started. We opened in 2022. It took that long. This whole project kind of started in 2010, opened in 2022, so it took that long. You know what I mean?
Oh, it just opened. Okay. I didn't realize it was that fresh. Oh, this is a a baby. Okay.
It's a baby.
It's a fetus.
Yeah, basically, it's like we just coming out. You know what I mean? So it's just so now here it is. And so what we do is we do arts instruction in every field. It's visual art, it's music, it's dance, it's animation, it's augmented reality, it's design classes, it's technology classes for all ages, 6 to 18. We do workforce development and job training for 18 to 25-year-olds and high wage creative fields. So I'm talking about drone filmmaking, what I mean, and augmented reality, virtual reality, game design, all of that type of stuff. We do social emotional programming. So we do culinary classes, skateboard design, and, ride and design, where you can learn how to, ride your skateboard and design the artwork that goes on the deck, all sorts of stuff. But our goal is now that we've kind of opened, is to think a little bit bigger. To kind of think about like, okay, you got a building now, you got a site, you got youth that you're working with. How can you start to build that sense of arts and culture and an environment that's economically supportive of young people in the community, so that they can thrive and create an environment and economic opportunities for themselves.
Yes.
So that they can stay in the Bay Area.
Yes. Yes.
That's the long game, right?
Yes.
It's like, how can you get the jobs that pay well enough that you can stay and be creative? How can you create opportunities for yourself as an entrepreneur, as an influencer, and so forth, that you can be able to afford to live here? How can you be the ones that are actually designing the technology, creating the businesses, the technological businesses that are shaping the world and environment that we live in? That's a long game. I don't even want people to hear it on the podcast. That's my secret mission. You know what I mean?
Right. Secret, but not so secret.
Secret, but not so secret mission, right? Like, we don't want people who, I think, let's say it like this. It is scary to me when I hear folks who, don't like Black and brown people talking about what they want to create and in the future, and talking about they want to go to Mars and they want to create this technology and that technology. And you're like, oh, wait. You want to create the future and all this technology and so forth, but you don't like me. You don't like people who work like me. And what you want to replicate? What you want to make? Because I don't think, am I
Hello?
Hello,
because a Black woman invented GPS, so I don't know how you feel you're gonna get to Mars without us,
right?
Or anywhere else.
When I'm like, that's scary to me, and we need to be not only at the table influencing those decisions, we need to be making the tech. We need to be making the designing all of these things, and we need to have access to the resources to be able to do it.
Yes.
We shouldn't be having problems where they're talking about, oh, we created some AI that, or some, what was it? The car that, cars that don't know how, when they're scanning, like the automated self-driving cars, when they scan people and stuff like that, they don't know how to read darker skin colors, so they're more likely to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
What? How is that happening?
Listen, even with something, a little bit less dangerous as far as like using the restroom and trying to get some soap to come out.
It doesn't read your skin color.
Just a couple weeks ago, I was trying to get, it was a white lady who had just washed her hands, and I'm like, okay, is it broken now? I said, ma'am, can you just wave your hand? And she waved it came right on out. She's like, I don't know. I said, I just want to wash my hands.
You getting written out.
Of cleanliness.
Of cleanliness.
Just,
and then they get to then the narrative, the stereotype of us being unclean gets to be reinforced, right? No,
no, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No, thank you. So that's the thing. I think we need to make sure that we are creatives.
Yes.
And that we have the ability to create at the very highest levels. I have been saying that I think developing our creative capacity, having access to creative resources, and expressing our creative agency, these are civil rights. These are civil rights. That's what we need to be doing. And we need to think of it that way, is that when people talk about, cutting these types of classes or making it so that we're not developing that muscle, we're not investing in giving people access to the very best resources to express that muscle. What they're really talking about is denying us the ability to learn how to create for ourselves, and therefore we are not going to be able to do so at the level that we need to shape our own reality in a healthy way. That is what I'm concerned about. And I think that, people, when they talk about the arts, they've gotten into this environment of thinking about, let's really talk about arts and crafts. I'm talking about, doing a little bit of dancing and stuff like that. No.
Big dancing. Big crafting, big drafting, big dreaming.
Big dreaming, big crafting, not small stuff. Don't even talk about that minimal stuff. That's not what we're talking about. It needs to be thought of in a much bigger way. And we've let in the arts field, I think we've let the conversation, when people talk about defunding the arts and, art funding going down, where they're like, oh, you mean the opera? You know what I mean? Or you mean the plays? And I'm like, see, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that. Black and brown people should not be letting ourselves get co-opted by that conversation about, should you fund the opera? No, it's not what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
First of all, which operas are you talking about? Because none of these operas are covering the works of Maya Angelou. We're not talking. We're not investing in people like Dee Dee Bridgewater or Bobby McFerrin, whose sounds need to be on that large stage. What are we who are the black and brown opera composers that you're talking about? Because them ain't the people we talking about, baby.
Not at all. And we want to compose something else. I'd like to compose the song that we're going to be listening to when we're on the mothership going to Mars on our ship.
Hello.
That's what
In English.
In English.
In English, and back to our our native languages. Some Swahili,
basically,
some,
what I'm talking about. Like, can we get funding for the ship?
Yes.
the song that we're listening to, and what we're going to do, the architecture once we get there. That's what I'd like.
Hello.
The mothership connection. I'd like to have all of it. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's what really drives you. You can tell I'm
we're trying to be on a fantastic voyage.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
Slide, slippity slide.
That's right.
Oh, this has been really great chatting with you, Nadine. Please tell the people where they can find you and Epicenter and how they can invest into the young people.
Absolutely. So we can be found at EPACENTER.org. We are happy to connect with people at any time on our LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn. We are on, Instagram. We are on Facebook. We've got all the handles. So we would love to connect with people. We are always registering people. We do all of our classes every semester. We also do public art. So if people are interested in having students work on public art projects, if you're interested in commissioning them to work on marketing projects for your organization, for your company, for your nonprofit, we would be loving to connect them with you as well.
Yes, and all these links will be in our show notes. Thank you again, Nadine, for chatting with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure. I just love talking about it. You can tell.
Yes. All right, y'all. Tap in and support Black creativity, Black economy, amen, and Black dreams.
That's right.
Thank all of you out there for listening and supporting another season. Again, leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or in the comments of our social media. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending.